going to get deeper insight into what to expect during this 2026 legislative session from two leaders in the Senate. Here in the studio is the newly elected Senate President Pro Tem, Republican Senator Larry Walker, the third of Perry. He has served in the Senate since 2015 and is former chair of the Insurance and Labor Committee. So we're so glad he's here. Also joining us is the Senate Minority Leader, Democratic Senator Harold Jones, the second of Augusta. He's been in the Senate since 2014, and his committees include Judiciary. Welcome to Lawmakers, both of you, with your end of your names, the second, third. Okay, all righty. Pro Tem Walker, you led the Senate caucus press conference today, and the caucus calls for a focus that says reignite the American dream. You broke down priorities into three areas: the cost of living, quality of life, and the next generation. So let's start with cost of living, which looks at taxes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, Donna. So everywhere all the constituents we hear from, whether it's Blue Ridge down to Bainbridge, they're straining under the rising cost of living. And we hear that, and we're going to focus on that. It's cost of housing, cost of groceries, cost of child care. In the American dream, this is the 250th anniversary of America and Georgia. And sadly, the American dream seems out of reach for too many people. And so our focus is going to be on affordability. Yeah,
so I know one of them has to do with the state income tax rate. You mentioned that. And then it says stop skyrocketing local property tax bills by capping home valuations. So I have your little flyer here. Tell us about that.
So under Lieutenant Governor Jones's leadership, we had a study committee over the interim to look at our income tax situation. And we have a plan to eliminate state income tax on the first $50,000 of earnings for a single filer, or $100,000 for a married filer filing jointly. So that will eliminate the state income tax on 2/3 of Georgians, and we're very excited about that. We also hear from our constituents on a regular basis that they're skyrocketing property tax, and we've already dropped a bill to address that, which would be a floating homestead exemption that would limit the increase on property tax to the rate on your home to the rate of inflation.
Okay, thank you. Any comment on any of that? I know the income tax, you've spoken out about that.
We've spoken out about the income tax, but I think one of the things is affordability, of course, is the buzzword of the year. And one of the ways we're going to be attacking that particular issue is through Medicaid expansion, and also actually having tax credits for people who actually bring their premiums down as far as their health insurance is concerned, because that is a major crisis within Georgia, health insurance. And so number one, we'd have Medicaid expansion, which can actually help get more people insured. And over 1 million Georgians right now, we're depending on those federal tax credits. So what some states have done, even before what's recently happened, is they created their own tax credits so their people could actually afford those premiums or deductibles. And so what we've been proposing, we actually started it last year with SB 192, and it will continue this year to actually have our own tax credits to address that particular issue. So when we talk about affordability, the question really becomes, what issues are you looking at? And then secondly, how do you actually make those things affordable?
The thing is, you're both talking affordability. Yes. That's the main thing. I want to focus on you for a little bit because I want to make sure you spoke at the press conference today about ICE, and Senate Democrats presented 3 bills. You have one that is SB 390, and it is to put limits on the National Guard. Tell us about it.
Right. What it basically says is out-of-state National Guard cannot come in unless it has the permission of the governor. And so other states have actually done this too, South Carolina being one, Kansas being another, Washington just actually passed a similar law. So it's not anything particularly unusual. And so what the press conference was today about was, number one, we were focusing on ICE. I think we saw that. But then secondly, it's actually a larger issue, and that issue is the fact that a lot of people are actually concerned and scared about the overreach that this administration is doing. And quite frankly, after the last event that we had in Minnesota, it almost seems like death was actually normalized to some extent by this president, the callous way they kind of looked at what had taken place. And so people are nervous and they're scared about what's going on, and we wanted to address those particular issues.
Okay. I didn't know whether you want to comment on that, or we can move on to quality of life.
Let's talk about quality.
Tell us what the quality of life what you're talking about in terms of that?
Well, we know we have to have safe communities, and so we're going to continue to invest in safe communities. We also know that part of your quality of life is having opportunities to enjoy the great outdoors. Georgia's a beautiful state, and we're going to look at ways to further protect lands. Our state is growing because we've had strong leadership, and our economy is attracting a lot of industry and a lot of manufacturing, which we're proud of. But we want to make sure we do protect opportunities to protect lands and let people enjoy the great outdoors. I was real proud to have sponsored and carried the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Act several years ago under Governor Deal, and I hope we can maybe expand that. And that's where a portion of the sales tax revenue on outdoor recreation equipment goes to acquiring land to protect for the public use.
Okay. Anything else you want to mention in terms of Democratic priorities in your caucus?
Absolutely. Another issue is going to be housing, which was also mentioned, but the way you actually approach it is going to be key. So some of those issues you can deal with from kind of like a regulatory level, such as zoning, but also you want to look at the fact that private equity, Georgia is one of the worst offenders as far as private equity buying so many homes. Here's the problem with that. What happens is they're not buying those homes for people to live in as a home. They're buying those homes and actually jack up the rent, so to speak, and that becomes problematic. And so we actually going to have a bill to talk about trying to limit private equity buying up all these homes in Georgia. And as I said, and Atlanta actually is a victim of this, quite frankly, and other parts of Georgia are too. So number one, we'll look at regulatory features, and then number two, we'll look at private equity to try to get people into their homes.
Okay. Well, let's get to your next generation, because part of it deals with something we're going to talk about later, and that's protecting children when it comes to AI. But you're really focusing on things when it comes to schools and those kinds of things.
Yeah, so AI certainly has a lot of benefits to it. We just want to make sure there are guardrails around it so that, for example, you don't want AI to be imitating a child and be on social media that would damage that child. There just needs to be guardrails around it, and I'm sure your next guest will know a lot more about it than I do, but it's an interesting topic, and but it is a little, as you said in the intro, a little scary to me in my generation anyway.
Yeah, so also absenteeism you guys looked at, and low literacy rates, so those are two things you're going to look at.
Yeah, we have a chronic absenteeism problem, and we're going to address that this year. I will say that I do agree with the leader, minority leader, on the private equity buying up and driving up the cost of housing. That's something I think we can work together on, and I look forward to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to ask before you go is what we're hearing is that you, from both sides, is you guys are agreeing on a lot.
Yes.
Do you agree that that's true?
We're agreeing on a lot. We just have to see the details. That's always going to be the key. But I think one of the good things is that Senator Pro Tem Walker and myself actually have a great relationship. So I think that will add to the possibility of getting things done.
So you agree that we may not see things as contentious as we've seen in the past?
I hope we're going to just focus on putting Georgians first and focus on kitchen table issues that really matter, not get caught up in all the political grandstanding. This is an election year, and all the political posturing. I hope we can keep the main thing the main thing.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you both for coming on the show, and maybe we'll have you on a little bit later.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much.